To be God's hands and His feet in this world really requires that each of us do something that is radical. It starts with dangerous surrender. It starts with an attitude of the heart that says, God, I don't know what you want from me. I can't see around the next bend. I have no idea what it is you're asking of me. But I'm willing to give you myself, the whatever, the whenever, anytime you want me, any way you want to use me, I am yours. 5 years ago, God radically changed my life, and I just was not suspecting. I didn't see it coming. I had no idea God was about to take the trajectory of my life and change it forever and turn my world upside down. I just simply sat down to read a magazine one day, and there was a magazine article that talked about AIDS in Africa. And when I picked up this magazine, it was full of pictures that were just so awful. Skeletal men and women, babies so weak they can't brush the flies away from their faces. They're horrible pictures. And so I tried not to look at the pictures, but to just look at the words in the magazine article. And there was this little box in the middle of the article that said 12 million children orphaned in Africa due to AIDS. And that rocked me, because I'm sitting in the middle of my comfortable living room in Orange County, California, and I don't know a single orphan. I sat there going, okay, do I know an orphan? And I couldn't come up with the name of a single orphan. And then I started thinking, do I know anybody who's HIV positive? And I didn't know anybody who's HIV positive. And it stunned me to realize that what was being called the greatest humanitarian crisis of all times had happened, and I didn't even know it. I mean, it was like right under my nose. So while I'm raising my kids and building my church, this gargantuan crisis is building, and I was totally oblivious to it. So I spent a few weeks just sort of being haunted by that number and feeling like there was nothing I could do about it. It was too big. What did I know about a disease that spanned the globe? And what turned it for me was just realizing that someday I was going to have to face Jesus. That when He comes and calls for me to give an account of my life, that He is going to say, okay, what did you do with my son, Jesus Christ? And then He's going to say to me, what did you do that day? Remember that day I showed you that magazine article and I showed you this whole new reality? What did you do? And I knew that I could not look Him in the face and say, you know what? I was busy. I had a lot of stuff going on. I'm sure that you were able to find somebody else to take care of this. That He was saying to me, I'm holding you responsible. And so I said yes. And I had no idea what that yes meant. I didn't know where it led to. I had no strategy. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have an agenda. I just knew that K. Warren Christian had to say yes to God. And from there, I began to learn, I began to study. I mean, God broke my heart. He just wiped me out. There's not a day goes by that I don't cry over what I've learned, what I've seen. But the next period of time was me just learning, reading everything I could read, watching videos, talking to medical people, going to visit. I thought I had to go to Africa to see AIDS. I didn't know that, at that point I didn't even know that there was a problem in the United States. So I went to Africa and I saw what I saw even more disturbed me and ruined me for life as it is here in the United States. I had to come back. And I'll never forget flying back from Africa the first time. I was really angry at the pastors that I had met in Africa because I felt like they weren't doing enough. You know, here AIDS was surrounding them. So AIDS is in their face all the time in a different way than it was for mine. So I was really judging them and saying, why aren't they doing more about it? As I'm flying back across the Atlantic and, I've got my finger just, really going at it to what they're not doing right. And I became conscious of these other three fingers that were pointing back to me, and God's saying to me, and excuse me, what have you done about it? Has your church ever preached a single message on AIDS? Does your church have anybody in there who's HIV positive? Does your church do anything for people who are sick? And it was like, no, 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 no to every one of those. And so it just became apparent that it was completely hypocritical to get my heart all in a dither over people thousands and thousands of miles away and not care a bit about somebody in my own congregation who was HIV positive, somebody in my community who was sick, all the people around me who were HIV positive, and I had done nothing, cared nothing. We had done squat. You can't read the Old Testament without seeing that God has a heart for people who are sick. And then you get to the New Testament, and a third of Jesus' ministry is healing people. So just a really quick look at the Bible shows God's heart. My heart wasn't in line with His. I needed to bring my heart in line with His and start caring for people. For us to talk about caring about HIV at home, where I live, meant to engage with the gay community. And that was done with a lot of trepidation, a lot of fear. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to say. I was afraid I was going to make a mistake. I was so afraid people would think that I had changed my theological viewpoint of sexuality, and it was just all this risky stuff. And yet what I found is that when I've gone in and talked to folks that are providing the AIDS services in our community, and I start with I'd just like you to know I'm really sorry that for 25 years I haven't been here. You've been fighting this battle alone. And we are really sorry, and we understand if you are a little hesitant, maybe you're a little suspicious, you're not really sure why we're here. I just want you to know we're not going away. We're here. We're in this with you for the rest of the duration. We're here to help you fight HIV, and we care about people with HIV. To just start from the attitude of, we blew it. We haven't been here, and we're sorry. And we want to work with you. We want to help. We want to show God's love and compassion. I found that relationships have built and incredible bridges have been built. And then in friendship, in relationship, we've talked about things and come to some things and ended up going, you know what? We're not going to agree on everything. And that's okay. What we do agree on is that we're going to fight HIV together. God is going to judge us by what we do about this pandemic. When 25 years ago, when the virus was discovered, it quickly became an epidemic. But on my watch, in the last 25 years, while I was doing other good things, an epidemic has become a pandemic. It is now around the world. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. There is just a moral mandate. He says in Ezekiel 34, he talks to the shepherds of Israel, and he says to them, he's angry with them, because he says, you know what? You did not bind up the weak. You didn't take care of the sick sheep. Those that were skinny and were trying to get up at the feeding trough, you fat sheep, you butted them away, and you made them go away, and you've neglected them. But God says, but I will be their shepherd. I will heal them. I will bind up their wounds. I will take care of the sick. I will take care of the weak. And so he's telling, to me, that is such a powerful indictment that says, yeah, God, I was guilty of being one of those that pushed away the sick. I was one of those that was guilty of pushing away those that needed to be drawn into your home and into your sustenance. But I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I have aligned myself with God's mission. What matters is that I live in these three worlds. I live in the world of every day where I take care of my family and I do my grocery shopping and I do my ministry, but there's a part of me that lives in this other world. A part of me is in this other world, and that's the world where I hear the cries, I hear the sobs of babies abandoned in fields, I see the faces of orphaned children whose mom and dad aren't coming home today, I see the bodies of men and women wasting away, and they don't have to live very far away from me, but they're a world away from me. And that is the world that I also live in, and that's the world that threatens to take me down. But it is the third world that I live in that makes it all possible, and that is where the Bible says we are seated with him in the heavenly places, and it is in communion with him every day, hearing his heart, being in his presence, drawing strength and love and sustenance to fight the evil that is in this world, to be his hands and his feet. We live in those three worlds. Most of us as Americans are content to only live in two. And I think he's asking us to live in three.